I didn't know that I was an introvert, but once I figured it out, it changed my life.
Bring your imagination to life with inspiring stories of an incredible and very real world.
Now, there is definitely misconceptions out there about what introversion is. The Cambridge Dictionary hasn't seemed to quite get it right yet. But for me, what introvert is how you manage and maintain your balance with your energy. Do you get energy from doing things alone? Do you need to recharge after you've been around lots of people for a long period of time? That to me is about introversion. It's not about being shy or not wanting to put yourself out there. It's just how you manage your energy. And so a little bit about me. As far as jobs that I've had, I started off working in McDonald's like you do, and that was fine, but I'd always used to be tired after work. And then I'd work in casinos. And that was also fine because we used to get, and I only just figured out why I loved casino work. So for casino work, at no time were you on a table for maybe more than 2 hours, because we'd do 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off, or 40 minutes on, 20 minutes off, or an hour on, 20 minutes off. You always got breaks, and I really only just figured out that's why I loved working in a casino, because I would get recharge time without actually knowing it. And then I worked in an office job, but I was alone in the office, so that was good. And then I got one other person who was my assistant, and that was still good. And then I worked in a bigger office, and that was still okay. And then I worked in corporate, full on cubicles as far as the eye can see, corporate. And I was a recruiter at this point. And we used to do back-to-back interviews, because that's what you did. You searched through resumes, you filled out times to interview people, and then you did interviews. And it was fine, but I was always a little tired, or more tired than I thought I'd be when I'd get home from work. And then because I lived with roommates at the time, they were always throwing parties, and I wanted no part of it. And I didn't really understand why. I thought I just, didn't enjoy the people, or didn't enjoy the drinking, or whatever it might be. And all of this time, I didn't realize I was an introvert. And then I was working in a position where I was doing payroll, and then I was doing sales, and something was always off. Something was always not quite right. I was happy enough, but I'd get sick, or part of the culture was going to your boss's barbecues and going on vacation with everyone you worked with and celebrating your birthday with everyone you worked with. You had hugs on the day, and they'd decorate your cubicle, and then you have to go for lunch with them. And I hated everything about that. Mainly because I'm a very private person, but also just because I work with you doesn't mean I like you. And I definitely don't want to spend my birthday with you or my lunch hour with you if that's the case. And so I thought it might have been a culture fit difference, because at this point now I'd moved to Mexico. I'm originally from England, though I travel a lot. And so I thought maybe it was a culture thing. And because they're very family orientated, and work and family tends to mix orientated, I thought that was what the issue was. And then SARS happened. And when SARS happened, we all had to work from home to help prevent, the spread of this disease. And my productivity went through the roof. And I didn't realize, or I didn't know why. And so I'd ask for more work. I didn't necessarily get it. They didn't necessarily have more work for me. So I started getting a little bored. And then I'd do stuff at home. I'd finish that jigsaw puzzle, read more books, or whatever it might be. But, I felt that I should be working more. So I started to look for other things to do. This is how I started freelancing. And then I'd travel more. And then that kind of stopped for a little bit, and I changed position. And at this position, I got to choose which shift I worked. And so most people work sort of 8 to 6, or 8 to 5, or 9 to 6. I chose 7 to 4. And I missed all the traffic. I got in an hour before everyone else, where it was nice and quiet. I got a lot of work done during that time. And who doesn't like to leave the office while everyone else is working? Leaving at 4 was awesome. I also didn't have to get on the bus. So we had a company bus where if you worked usual hours, you'd get on the bus and you'd sit next to someone new every day and have to make awkward conversation or whatever it might be. So I got to bypass all of that, and it was wonderful. But again, I didn't realize why this was also wonderful for me. Fast forward a little bit. I'm in a freelance position. It's a full-time, more or less, freelance position. I started traveling a bunch because my friends are dotted around the world. And so because my work only involved a computer, I used it as an excuse to go visiting people. And then I read the book Quiet by Susan Cain. And boy, so many light bulbs went off. Not just about me, but how I was brought up, how people perceived things, how like your parents might push you into different situations. And everyone's different, and everyone has a different level of these attributes in their lives. But this was amazing, and it made me realize just how important energy was to me. But maybe not important enough, because I still went ahead and worked another 2 years for a company that didn't appreciate what I did. I was working 60-hour weeks as a freelancer. The whole point is to be in control of what you do and how you do it. And something happened that was, the camel, or the stick that breaks the camel's back. And this thing was, originally when I started with the company, we'd have weekly meetings on a Monday. And because our team was scattered all around the world, we'd do 1 week in one time zone, or 1 month in one time zone, and then we do another month in a different time zone to make it fair for everybody. Then the company sort of outsourced a little and put us a third-party vendor in between them and us, and that made things a little difficult because the third-party vendor was like, we're having it this time every week, we don't care where the hell you are. And then it got to the point where it wasn't just a call that you could dial in, you had to do video as well. And as I said, we had people all around the world, and some people, this meeting was at midnight for them, and yet you wanted them to be on video. Not all of us lived in first world countries with a great internet. We were, enough internet to do our job, but not enough internet to have 12 of us on a video call. And then the client started complaining about people not paying attention, not being on video, the video audio not being great, and really not understanding the workforce that they had. And it got to a point one time when I was in Hong Kong. I was visiting friends, but I was passing through. And for the first time ever, this particular place where I was staying, the electricity went out. So I couldn't make this meeting. Under any other circumstances, this would be fine. But with this particular company, they got to the stage where, like, if you missed 2 meetings in a row, it's not a good thing. And so because of the pressure I felt from this company, I checked out of my hostel where I was staying, grabbed a very expensive taxi to the airport, because in Hong Kong, no one's really open 24 hours. I mean, there's a couple places, but not with Wi-Fi. But I knew the airport would have Wi-Fi. And so I checked out early. I had to pack all my stuff. I took a taxi because the trains weren't running anymore. I then had to pay for lounge access at the airport just to attend this meeting, only for them to complain that the Wi-Fi wasn't good enough and they couldn't see me properly on video. And that was it. That was the final thing that broke me for that particular company. And so eventually I left. And it was huge because they were my main source of income. During this time, I had also been doing workshops around the world on networking for introverts. And I found there was a great need for this and a great want for this. Not something I like doing. I don't like networking. So I was teaching ways of how to kind of avoid networking or do it on your own terms. And then I attended a conference. I originally pitched to them that I was going to tell them how to hire your first freelancer or your first VA. But they wanted to know more about the introversion. And so I ended up doing a talk on teamwork and introverts. And afterwards, everyone came up to me and was like, so do you do anything about this? How can I learn more information? You should coach on this. And I was like, oh really? Oh, okay. And so I did. And it's proven popular. And just a couple of years later, I do have a business. But I've also learned to create this business around my introversion, and plus my business is all about introversion, so it gives me a really good excuse. And so how this has worked with being someone who travels, who is location independent, who's gone from being a remote worker to having their own business, I realized that I can't do back-to-back meetings. It's draining, it's exhausting. I will do it once in a while for a good reason or a good cause, when I'm creating a summit or doing a launch or like my book or whatever it might be. There's certain things that have happened that have meant that I have had to do this. But generally now I have a calendar app that if anyone schedules time with me, it automatically blocks out either 15 minutes or 30 minutes before and after the meeting, so I can never have back-to-back meetings. I now do less one-on-one work because that would require more meetings and more time in my calendar. So I only do a certain amount. I've realized I can only coach for a certain amount of time, and that's fine. And I do other work for the rest of the time. I have other ways of earning money. I don't just do it the one way. And this works for me. I do a lot of courses online that people can consume. I do a podcast. I do totally different things. And so that has helped with my business and my introvert sort of energy levels. Giving back has always been important to me. I've tried to work with charities virtually. That works very well. I've also done in-person work. I try and make sure that most of the time, in some way, shape or form, that I am working with a charity, because that for me was really important. The other thing, naps. Napping is a great thing for me personally, for my energy. If I'm procrastinating, if I'm stuck, if there's something, or if I'm angry, instead of me firing off that email straight away, which I know I shouldn't do, I should go and nap it out. Napping is a good thing. And so helping my business so that I can block it out that I'm napping right now, and the world isn't going to go up in flames. Very important. Also, what I didn't realize was finding a community. So I started doing this seven or so years ago, and I did everything by myself, for a good 5 years. It's only recently that I found bits and parts of a community that I'm pulling together that is supportive either of introverts or of working online. Yes, there is information overload, and so there is this balance that you have to do where you get information from mentors or people who've been there before. Accountability buddies are very helpful, but then there's so much information out there and you just want to Google it all. What you have to remember is your journey is unique. No one else has done the same journey you have, and nor will anyone do the same journey you have. So you can try and fail. And failing's okay. It's actually trying and learning. It's not failing. You learn from that experience. And I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to set boundaries better, or what boundaries I want, and that can change over time as well. And with traveling, so for me, traveling is what makes me happy. I think I always have one trip semi-planned in the future. I've always got one flight booked or one, bus trip or whatever it might be. It can be small, it can be huge, but I always have something that I'm working towards. I found that works for me. And what I'm doing now as the next stage of my business is I have a very big trip planned in a very, very different time zone. So what I'm trying to do is put in systems and automations and people who help me in place so that when I am in this other time zone in about how many months' time, that my business will still keep on running. And that's been really challenging and rewarding at the same time, because it's giving me back space. What I've realized is I can't work all the time. It's not good for me to work all the time, even though your work is never done when you own your own business. But having that time to blue sky think, or to breathe, or just to let ideas come to you is far better than hustling all the time. Hustling is not good. The other thing that I found is that I'm not selling. So one of the things of being an introvert and having your own business, sometimes you might feel that you have to sell hardcore, or be an extrovert. And that is not the case. Relationship building and letting people know what you have and providing some value. I'm not about giving everything away for free. There is definitely a trend right now that you have to give so much away for free to give value, and then people will pay you. People now expect far too much for free and don't value what they are actually getting. And so I try to get this balance of, okay, here's the stuff, this is going to cost you. And therefore I do less one-on-one time because it's going to cost you more because it's my time as well. But no hard selling. And then there's my podcast. That came out of nowhere, and that came from dropping that ridiculous client. And that has led to its own joy and own ways that it brings revenue to my life, but it also means that I get to raise other people up. I created a book celebrating other introverts' achievements. I'm still learning and I'm still growing, but the thing that has been most important has been mindset. Going from being told what to do all the time to actually owning your business and strategizing, and you do everything and figuring out is a big change. And I wish I'd learned that earlier, which is why I highly recommend mentors or accountability buddies. But being an introvert, running your own business, and traveling the world if you so choose, and you can do that fast or slow. I definitely have a home base, and an unintentional home base, but I do have a home base, and then I travel from that home base. But sometimes I'm gone for 3 months in a row, or I'll go somewhere, every month. It really depends on what's going on. You have those options of, oh, this person's getting married, or this person's had a death in the family and I can go and support them. Or, oh, this is a really cool gig, concert, whatever that I want to go to, and you can pick up and go. But when you're traveling as an introvert, something to keep in mind is the spaces that you travel into. Are you someone that likes to stay in hotels or Airbnbs? Can you deal with being in a hostel with lots of people, or do you need to have your own room? Knowing these things about you will make life that much easier. I'm now not a hostel user. I was never really a hostel user, but I definitely avoid hostels because I work random hours. I like my own space, and I'm not the person who's going to want to chat to the person next door to me. But that's me. If you're into that, maybe you could do a mixture of your own space and hostels sometimes while you are traveling. The other thing to take into consideration when you are traveling is, are all your clients in one time zone? If so, take that into consideration where you will travel and how you will travel. But also just let your clients know you're human, you're going on vacation, all good. Set the boundaries, set the expectations. And that's the best thing to do. Your journey is special. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. We tend to look at all these splices of life that we see on Instagram and Facebook and think, oh, I need to do that. Oh, I wish I could do that. And I wish I was that person. It's great to have inspiration, but you do your journey. People will come to you as long as you do your journey. If you're trying to copy someone else, it's not the same. And I'm not saying I knew this straight off the bat. I'm learning. I'm always learning. But it has definitely given me freedom that I didn't expect, freedom that I didn't know I needed. So reading the book Quiet changed my life, and also I wouldn't be where I am today without realizing what I need. And figuring out what you need is the first step to getting what you want.
Thank you for joining us on another audio adventure right here at Wandertale. Subscribe to our channel to stay tuned for more stories from around the world, and share tales with the open-minded, the brave, and the curious.